said, yeah, things was good. But there was, he was saying something. I said, Ron, it almost seems like he's speaking a foreign language. I said, I just don't understand what you're saying. I couldn't even say it.
Okay, good evening, everybody. It's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll start with an invocation led by Councilmember Parker, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Helsley. Please rise as you're able.
As we gather tonight on this cold Veterans Day, let's take a moment to reflect on our shared humanity and the profound responsibility we carry as a community. In these challenging times, the needs in our city are many, calling on us to lead with compassion and purpose and an unwavering commitment to fostering an environment where the working poor do not have to worry about their government making house-to-house sweeps in search of code violations when they don't know where the next meal might come from, where renters don't have to worry that such actions might result in landlords raising rents and forcing them into the streets, and where the immigrant, the poor, the unhoused, and the unhealthy do not see more money invested into the policing of their trespasses over the building of that crucial safety net upon which we all could be in need one day. Dr. King once said, "Why should there be hunger and deprivation in any land, in any city, at any table, when man has the resources and the scientific know-how to provide mankind with all the basic necessities of life? There is no deficit in human resources. The deficit is in human will." May we take inspiration from the words of Dr. King as we delve into the agenda before us and work together to build a city where everyone has enough to eat and a safe place to call home, including Alejandro Guizar Lozano and too many others who have been stolen from their families and from us, Knoxville, their home. Amen.
Please place the flag. Place the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, welcome back. Please call roll for us.
Councilwoman Fugit, Councilwoman Helsley,
Here.
Councilwoman McKenzie,
Here.
Councilwoman Parker, Councilwoman Ryder,
Here.
Councilman Roberto,
Here.
Vice Mayor Smith,
Here.
and Councilwoman Singh, and Councilman Thomas. All members are present, Mayor.
Okay, is there a motion on the minutes from our last meeting? Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Are there any items to be withdrawn from the agenda? Are there any items to be added by motion? Vice Mayor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I forgot postponements. Are there any items to be postponed? Excuse me. Okay. Are there any items to be added by motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to add the ordinance each of the council members has received related to the SNAP program and funding for providing meals for those in our community. So by motion, I'd like to add that to the agenda.
Okay, motion has been made by Vice Mayor Smith and seconded by Councilmember Thomas to add this emergency ordinance that you received by email and also have a hard copy before you. This would be item 13AF, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any questions or discussion about this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll discuss that when we get to it on the agenda. Thank you so much. Any other items to be added by motion? Okay. Are there any memorials?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Is there a motion on the consent items? Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, time now for my mayor's report. First, I want to start by thanking all of the men and women in our area who've served in the military. Today is Veterans Day. The freedoms we enjoy are thanks in part to the willingness of our soldiers and sailors who defend these rights, and we're very grateful for that. I know some of you were able to participate in the Veterans Day Parade today. It was actually a beautiful day for a parade. The sun was out. We had at least 10 really robust marching bands from area high schools, and it was just a proud day, proud parade. And the cold did not keep people away. They stayed on the sunny side of the street more than the shady side, but there were a lot of people out there honoring our veterans and participating in the parade. It was really a nice occasion. So thank you to our veterans, and thank you to everyone who helped make the celebration possible. Would those veterans or people who've served in the military, active or previously, anyone who's here today, please raise your hand to be recognized. Don't be shy. Okay, thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much. So this cold weather reminds us that we are getting into the holiday season. So you may have noticed that our public service crews have already started setting up the holiday decorations, lights, and the ice rink is going up in Market Square. They get started really early, and we look forward to all the celebrations happening with the Christmas in the city. The first event starts next Friday. Christmas in Chilhowie will be Friday the 21st at 6 o'clock. This is a really fun event, and I know council members have been and enjoyed it. It's just really warm and friendly, a great way to kick off the holiday season. There's the Touch-It truck, there's hay rides, there's crafts, and photos with Santa Claus. So come on out and enjoy that. It's free and open to everybody, and I hope to see you all out there. Speaking of kids, I'm not sure if they're still here, but we have a special visitors joining us tonight, Daisy Troop 20449. Are you all still in the house? Oh, there you are. Okay. Thank you for being here. These girls met with me in my office, and we talked a little bit about the nature of city government and where they go to school, and then we did the friendship circle and passed the friendship squeeze and sang a song. It was a great way to start my evening activities. So I really appreciate the Daisy Scouts. Thank you for being here tonight. All right, now on to the more serious part. Rules of decorum. A quick reminder, we are here to do the city's official business. Those who wish to speak either to a specific agenda item or during public forum need to sign up with the city recorder before 4 p.m. Do not use profanity, and when speaking to specific agenda items, you must stay on topic. Remarks must be germane to the question ahead of the assembly. That is, statements must have bearing on whether the pending motion should be adopted. Those who fail to adhere to these rules will be ruled out of order. For those who are listening, if you disrupt a public meeting, you will be asked to leave or escorted out. Thank you in advance for everyone's respect for these rules. And that concludes my mayor's report. Are there any reports of committees or council members? Okay, any general council member announcements? Vice Mayor Smith, Council Member Thomas?
Yes, Mayor. As a courtesy to an applicant who may be waiting in the audience, Mr. Jesse Alcorn had an agenda item 13T. Mr. Alcorn, that item was indeed approved on consent, and you're free to go or to stay and watch the rest of the proceedings if you like. But I really appreciate the way you worked with the Inskip neighborhood on your project, and we look forward to working with you in the future. It had a good outcome, so thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Council Member McKenzie.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention the warming center that's open now at Eternal Life Harvest Center at 2410 Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue. I think the media has had it out there, but for those who are listening and in the audience, if you can please pass that information along for those who are in need of shelter during these cold temperatures. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Two items. One is I would like to thank all of the council candidates who ran for office. I see a number of you sitting in the audience now. Congratulations to the 5 winners. In older news, 5 of us will be rolling off, and 5 new bright, shiny faces will be seated here. An announcement to the public, the swearing-in ceremony for that will be on December 20th at 10 a.m. at the Knoxville Convention Center. So again, thank you to everybody who ran hard races, and congratulations to the new council members. And even older news, we've got a birthday to celebrate in Councilman Roberto. Happy early birthday to you tomorrow. We celebrate you.
Okay. Seeing no further announcements, we'll move on to the next agenda items.
9B is a resolution confirming the reappointment of Lisa Randazzo to the Historic Zoning Commission.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
9C is a resolution confirming the reappointment of Beth Rucker Miller and Rick Whitted Jr. to the Knoxville Transportation Authority Board.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
9D is a resolution expressing support for the mayor's reappointment of James Tomerlin and the appointment of Tiana Winter, Walla Habity, Albert Nelson, and Rachel Krieger to the Neighborhood Advisory Council, and expressing appreciation to John Cadote, Jack Sherrod, Sidney Poker, and Brad Guilford for their years of service.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Before we move on, I believe some members, current or former, of the Neighborhood Advisory Council, including James Tomerlin, are here. So thank you for your service and continued service. Appreciate it. These folks volunteer their time and provide a lot of valuable insight to our city, so we appreciate it. All right, next item, please.
9E is a resolution confirming the appointment of Bobby Graham to the City Pension Board.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
10F is an ordinance to change the base zoning classification of property located at 305 West Vine Avenue from DKG District to DKB District, leaving all special purpose and overlay districts unchanged. Lee Birch, applicant, 6th District.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Oh, we have, you go. We're on 10F?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We have one person signed up to speak in favor of this, Ms. Zaviska, Ellen Zaviska. If you could start by stating your name and address, you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Is this on?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Ellen Zaviska, 3118 Fairview Street, here to speak with you very briefly on behalf of Yes Knoxville. We support more housing opportunities, choices, and transportation in our city. We're supportive of this rezoning because it allows the developer the flexibility to build this project in a way that is financially viable. As an organization, of course, we're very supportive of mixed-use development because it enhances walkability and sustainability and all sorts of other great things in our city. We, of course, support the planning that led to this existing zoning and the great staff at Knoxville, Knox County Planning that led that work. However, flexibility is needed sometimes too, and we recognize that if commercial development isn't financially viable in this location at this time, we support a residential development that will add more housing to our downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, that concludes the people who signed up to speak to item 10F. Any further questions? Councilmember Thomas.
Yes, I do plan to vote with my colleagues on this. I abstained last time. The reason I want to make some comments is just to kind of highlight actually the importance of this standard, though. It really, the way we integrate commercial with housing and street front businesses is really going to determine how downtown Knoxville grows. And I can use an example, a street I'm familiar with, like, which is Union Avenue. It has a restaurant, J.C. Hoagway. It's got Union Avenue Books. It's got a spa. It's got a coffee house. And up above that is residential. You go across the street, and you've got Pete's Coffee Shop, you've got a business office, and then you've got residential storefronts there, and then above that, you've got that. So the vibrancy of a street like that compared to, say a street where there's a multi-level parking garage that, the entire block has no storefronts, no business, like that. It's just a lot of wasted space. So I just really want to emphasize the importance of continuing to heed that style. I think the planning staff actually correctly under the law applied this standard, but as some of my colleagues pointed out, sometimes we have to be flexible. Market forces play some role in this. Mr. Birch is an experienced developer downtown. He's familiar with businesses. He's probably got a pretty good sense of what that he can make work on that block and what he wants. So I'm going to defer to my the district rep, and there's no downtown residences here that are opposed to this. But I don't want this to become kind of the default position where someone who's developing downtown can pretty much get an exemption for that kind of street thing. So I just wanted to emphasize the port. Even though I'm going to support this exception, I really want it to remain an exception. I think we did this one earlier time, maybe with Marble Alley, where it was kind of a similar situation there. So there are circumstances when market forces and terrain would make this an exception. And I understand that, if I'm right, Mr. Swanson, there's discussions between the law department and staff about possibly tweaking this ordinance, or is that correct?
I understand that there are. It's a very difficult subject, as you have
Right.
well noted,
Right.
and there are things to be said on each side of it, and it's,
Right.
but they are discussing it and trying to see if there are ways to create a structure for making those compromises.
Right, excellent. Yeah, I think my impression at this stage would be to keep these requirements basically pretty strict, and then have the developer to come in and show an exception why it would be better to the benefit of the downtown and the city not to apply it on his particular project. I think this particular project qualifies for an exception. I think Marble Alley did. So I don't know that there's anything that would prevent the developer, if market forces changed, to convert what had been housing before into streetscape. So anyway, I just wanted to make those comments. I completely welcome more housing. Density, to me, is not a problem downtown. The more the better. So density, to me, is not a question here. It's just how we integrate that density into a vibrant, livable city that will apply amenities to people who actually live here. So thank you for your time, colleagues.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12H is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an amendment to agreement number C-24-0119 with eSkill Corporation to exercise both extension options and to add additional services to the online testing platform for administering pre-employment examinations to take advantage of multi-year pricing for a total amount not to exceed $24,050 for each year of the 2-year extension period.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12I is a resolution authorizing the mayor to award a total amount of $11,850 in Neighborhood Small Grants Program grants in support of community building activities planned by 5 neighborhood organizations in the city. Specifically, awards will be made to the East Tennessee Community Design Center, which will serve as fiscal sponsor for all 5 of the neighborhood groups.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12J is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into agreement number 250280 with the State of Tennessee Department of Transportation in an amount not to exceed $37,700 to upgrade traffic signal detection at 3 intersections as part of the Clinton Highway resurfacing project.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please. Oh, I'm sorry, council members.
I would just like Mr. Clabo to comment on it. Tell us what the difference is between the system we had and the system we're going to.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'm Tom Clabo, Engineering Director. So TDOT is in process, or I think they've actually paved Clinton Highway. So that stretch has 3 different intersections that have traffic signals that we maintain. So as part of that, those signals currently have loops that are cut in the pavement. And so when they mill the pavement, it disrupts those loops, so they've got to replace those. But they came to us and asked if we'd like to upgrade those to video detection, which is really our standard for that type of roadway. So this cost is the incremental cost from going from loops to video detection.
Your microphone's not on.
How does the video detection work?
It's very similar to the loops. It's detecting vehicles by video, so it creates kind of telemetry, and once vehicles enter a box, it picks those up, so it knows to sequence the light depending on where the traffic is.
But not the specifics of license plates
No.
and things like that? Okay, thank you.
Council, someone has signed up to speak in favor of this. Ellen Zaviska, if you could come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have up to 3 minutes.
Should have sat closer. Ellen Zaviska, 3118 Fairview Street. Again, I'll be very brief. Just wanted to say, very happy to see the city collaborating with TDOT on this project. And I wanted to just ask that they consider including, if it's not already included, pedestrian detection, especially for the intersection with Shad and Callahan. That's an intersection where there are already pedestrian signals and there are cat stops nearby. So in addition to this technology providing for improved flow of traffic, just wanted to make sure it's also going to provide for the safety of the folks who are walking and accessing CAT in this area. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the people signed up to speak to item 12J. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12K is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a license agreement to allow Axle Logistics, an affiliate of Blueprint Property Group 2 LLC, to utilize a portion of Pruitt Place public right-of-way for a pedestrian corridor and plaza project.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12L is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with the Knoxville Chamber to provide funding in an amount not to exceed $631,300 per year to fund the Chamber's mission of driving economic prosperity in the Knoxville community through its Prosperity Through Innovation strategic vision in coordination with local partners and supporters.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Mike Odom, the president of the chamber, is here if you have any questions. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
12M is a resolution authorizing, or rather approving, that was approved on consent. 13O is an ordinance to amend the Knoxville City Code, Chapter 22.5 Stormwater, updating the stormwater and street ordinance of the city of Knoxville.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Councilmember Ryder.
Yeah, I was wondering if Mr. Howley could maybe answer a couple of questions, or Mr. Clabo, whoever would like to take them. So, 5 minutes, sir. Okay, so can you just, for everybody's, there's a lot of discussion about stormwater requirements, and there's a lot of pushback sometimes about that being a burden on development. So could we just touch on why we do this and what we're trying to accomplish? Some of the things that are in here are like SPAP. It's a very exciting word for people. But building in stormwater was a hot topic during the recent elections. So do you want to comment on why we're regulating these things? And are the changes we're voting on tonight to regulate them more or less?
Sure. So first of all, most of the stormwater that we regulate is broken into two components. And I'd say water quantity is one of them, so runoff, and that's predominantly related to flood control. So new developments, when they add impervious area, it generates more water. And that additional water has the potential to create flooding issues for downstream folks. And so the regulations we have in place require devices to be installed on site to mitigate that so that we don't have that downstream flooding. The other aspect of things is water quality. So water quality, that's SPAP, the Special Pollution Abatement Permit, as well as a first flush treatment, and those are kind of run in tandem, and they depend on use to some degree. Those are, first and foremost, that is a federal mandate that requires that the city have these regulations in place as part of our National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit. But even more importantly to the community, it's about pollution in our creeks, in our streams, ultimately in the river, and it's a group of criteria that are used to eliminate those types of issues that come from runoff off of a construction site or a developed site. And as far as the regulations that we are proposing that you're voting on tonight, there are no new regulations that create additional hurdles for development.
So the bonds that are in it are currently existing ones. We're not changing how those are administered or anything?
That's correct. There are some new options as far as being able to still meet those criteria, but the existing things that have always been written into there is nothing that makes those more challenging. There's just more options that are provided for.
Okay, so last question. When someone tells us Knoxville makes it harder, you said that SPAP specifically, because I have tangential familiarity with it, that's not specific to Knoxville. That's federally required. Do we do something novel in the way that we enforce it, or?
We do something different than some other communities do. So Knoxville was one of 4 communities across the state of Tennessee that has a phase 1 permit, which basically means our implementation timeline was much earlier than the rest of the state. Okay. And so in being a phase 1 community, we have something called an individual permit. So our permit is based on performance criteria. And those performance criteria, we created those in between 1993 and 1997. And so the regulations that we came up with to meet that performance criteria at that time are part of our permit criteria moving forward. So the big 4, which is Knoxville, Chattanooga, Nashville, and Memphis, are all the phase 1 communities in the state of Tennessee. And our regulations are not the same because we each individually came up with those criteria. But the Special Pollution Abatement Program, it is related to water quality hotspots, which is a TDEC, a Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation term, to address special pollutants on specific land uses.
Okay, like grease coming out of
Like
fryers.
Fryers, or
Okay.
a gas station having petroleum potential issues, and a number of other uses that are known to create specific types of pollutants.
Okay, last question, it's a simple one, because this is the thing that gets misunderstood. There was a time where when the general consensus of we didn't have as much regulation. So we have buildings that are in the floodplains from past that are still there, they're grandfathered, but if some of those areas were to be rebuilt, there's different requirements now.
That's true.
Like Broadway, not to be obtuse. Broadway is predominantly a floodplain, and we have a lot of shopping centers and developments there that would have to be substantially different or would have to handle water mitigation very differently if they scraped and went up from their ground.
They would be different, and the
Okay.
predominant component of it would be that they would have to be elevated to a higher elevation
Okay.
above what would flood.
Okay, all right, appreciate it, Mr. Howley.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on item 13O? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
13P. 13P is an ordinance to amend the Knoxville City Code, Chapter 17, Article 2, Division 3, Section 17-72, subsection C, to clarify the classification of late fees for parking violations.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Councilmember McKenzie.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask Ms. Ball if you could please just give us a high-level overview of this fee and the amount of the fee so people are aware.
Certainly. This is not addressing a specific fee. There's no change in any cost related to fees. This is about the use of the term fine, and the term fine has been determined to be maybe not exactly the way the state would prefer that we word this, and to get us in compliance with state regulations, we are changing it from the word fine to the words administrative late fee.
So when people see that, that's just the new wording, and that's it.
Correct.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Councilmember Fugit. You have a microphone? It's not working? Can you borrow Councilmember Ryder's?
I'll
or-
just talk really loud. So
It's better if you just use the mic.
The
Yeah.
TV people want
well,
you.
they don't.
The YouTubers.
Oh, thank you. So the way I interpret this, and I think it's what you said, it's basically, we were charging a late fee if you didn't pay on time. Now we're just kind of calling it that rather than an additional fine, because it was never an additional fine. It was a charge for being late with your payment. So it is now accurately called what it is.
Correct.
I see the law director shaking his head, so thank you.
Okay. Mr.
Yes, that is
Roderick?
correct. And there are constitutional limitations on the amount of money that can be charged in a fine. And this wasn't a fine. It was, in fact, an additional charge that was incurred because they were late paying. And there are additional things that have to be done administratively when fees are paid late. And so it is completely fair and reasonable to charge an administrative late fee, and that's exactly what this was. It wasn't an additional fine.
Okay, Councilmember McKenzie.
And just to be clear, so anyone who gets a parking violation, they have 10 days, and after 10 days,
There is an increase in the fee, correct.
okay, which is
D-
the $9.
Yes,
Okay,
$9 local.
okay, just want everybody to be clear about that when you're parking during the day. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Oh, okay, you're just checking your mic. Okay, works now. Thank you. Next item, please.
13Q is an ordinance to amend the Knoxville City Code Appendix B Zoning Code, Article 2, General Definitions and Measurement Methodologies, Article 4, Residential Neighborhood Districts, Article 9, Uses, Article 10, Site Development Standards, and Article 11, Off-Street Parking, to create a new use, single-family attached dwellings, Knoxville, Knox County Planning applicant, all districts.
Okay, motion's been made to approve and seconded. We do have several people signed up to speak in favor and several against. And when you get to your discussion, I just want to make council know that Brian Berry, our Deputy Director of Plans, Reviews, and Inspections, is available to field detailed questions about it from the city's planning perspective. So we'll start with the people signed up to speak in favor of item 13Q. First is Kellen Sarles. If you could start by stating your name and address for the record, you'll have up to 3 minutes.
My name is Kellen Sarles. I live at 7813 Cortland Drive in West Hills. Good evening, all of you. My name, as I told you, my husband and I live in West Hills, and we were very lucky to move there when the property was affordable. Since that time, 8 years ago, the prices have skyrocketed. I love my neighborhood and I love my neighbors, and I certainly appreciate my neighbors' vigilance in protecting West Hills' character. But I'm also aware that Knoxville has a housing crisis that has already outpriced first-time buyers. Working people, our own sons and daughters, cannot find an affordable home in Knoxville. Their futures offer only 3 choices at this point: continuing to pay rent at rates that swallow up any potential savings, move farther and farther out into the county, or leave the area entirely. Those who leave the area take with them their education, their skills, their families, their youth and energy, and their tax dollars. We will have outpriced their future and ours. One solution, however, is for existing neighborhoods to welcome alternatives to single homes on huge lots. The single-family attached dwelling proposal could work in West Hills and other R and R2 districts, especially on lots that exceed minimum width. However, in West Hills and elsewhere, there is very little land to be had, only backfill lots here and there, so a handful of SFA dwellings would hardly have the dramatic effect on aesthetics that has been predicted. To the concern over driveways, as one who walks the neighborhood daily, I will tell you that not most, but many homes already have 2 driveways, a semicircular driveway and a parking pad. The overall curb appeal of a property, in my eyes, has much more to do with upkeep, landscaping, and cosmetics than it does with the presence or absence of a driveway. Bottom line, we cannot keep asking you folks to fix the housing crisis unless neighborhoods are willing to do their bit. Last time I checked, God is not creating any more real estate. Passing an SFA ordinance would be just that, a baby step toward easing the path to individual home ownership and ensuring our city's future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person signed up to speak in favor of item 13Q is Hope Ely. Ms. Ely? Come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes to address council.
Hope Ely, 544 Broom Road. So I'm here today to speak in favor of the amendment to the zoning code regarding single-family attached dwellings. This amendment creates more opportunities for homeownership, increases housing density in a way that it does not put additional strain on schools, neighborhoods, and infrastructure, and creates more housing options for individuals or families who do not want or need a single-family home. When people think about the households that make up our city, people first imagine households that look like mine with 2 parents and 2 children. But the reality is that we need housing for all types of people and situations. Knoxville made national news last year for being among the top 20 loneliest cities in the U.S., meaning that a large percentage of total households only have 1 person living in it. They found that Knoxville has 16,000 men and 18,000 women who are living alone. Some live alone by choice, but many of these people live alone out of necessity because of deaths or divorces or separations. And at this time, we do not have appropriate housing inventory for all of these people. This problem became more obvious to me in the past year. Last November, my mother-in-law, who lives in Nashville, retired from Macy's after 25 years at the age of 70. And she's in a better situation than many. She lives in her own townhome that she owns. She has modest savings set aside, and she's in good health. My husband is her only child, so her intention when she retired was to move to Knoxville to be closer to us. And this has been way more difficult than any of us expected. My mother-in-law has looked continuously over the last year for a reasonably priced townhome like the one she currently lives in that has little maintenance issues in a neighborhood where she feels safe and can age in place. But any units that meet these criteria are either artificially inflated in price because of low inventory, or they're purchased so quickly that she doesn't have time to put in an offer. And this isn't a unique problem just for my family. We're about, as a community, as a country, we're about halfway through the silver wave. Many Gen Xers and millennials are trying to figure out how to support their baby boomer relatives as they age. And one of the easiest and least expensive ways to do this is by updating the zoning code so that someone like my mother-in-law, who worked hard, followed the rules, and retired, can preserve some of her wealth by purchasing a single-family attached dwelling in a neighborhood where she feels comfortable spending time in her front yard and going for walks in her neighborhood. I think we owe this generation that, housing where they can age while having their basic needs met. I certainly owe that to my mother-in-law. I know there are many reasons why people don't like duplexes, but in this situation, I feel like the needs of the community and the opportunities created by this zoning change outweigh the issues. And I just appreciate all of you being here and considering this important issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Third person signed up to speak in favor of 13Q is Aaron Jernigan. Aaron Jernigan, there you are. Please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes to address council.
Sorry, I was hiding in the corner. My name is Aaron Jernigan. I live at 117 East Springdale Avenue in Oakwood, Lincoln Park. And I work for, I'm a project manager at a local architecture firm and a member of Yes Knoxville. I'd like to express my support for this amendment, as I believe it will marginally increase homeownership opportunities. By allowing homes on either side of a party wall to be individually sold, we can decrease the overall cost of each home and provide smaller units at more economically viable prices. I spoke to a friend who is a builder recently, and he said he could build a 1,500 square foot home in Knoxville for about $150 per square foot. That's on the low end, but he also said that a 500 square foot home, in this case it was an ADU, would cost about $300 a square foot to build. So that's double the cost per square foot for a home that is 1/3 of the size. This is because of fixed costs like mobilization of subcontractors, which you might have heard referred to as the cost of starting up the truck. If we apply this theoretical comparison to a single-family attached home, you might find that a family who wants to live in, say, a 750 square foot unit could build it at a foot cost more similar to the 1,500 square foot home if they build a unit on each side of the party wall. So this could result in a new construction, single-family attached home being delivered for less than $150,000 based on that square foot cost, slightly increased for the complexity of building a duplex. That's a cost and size that feels much more like a starter home and a better starter home format than the 500 square foot ADU example. I'll also note from my experience designing buildings for a living that it is uncommon to see any attached units built without double walls. And this is where the unit is fully separated from the other unit, so essentially a double stud wall with a 1-inch gap in between them. So any concerns about water migration from one unit to another would not happen in that scenario. This could be made a requirement for permitting of single-family attached homes as well. These homes would also have fully separate utilities. In summary, I urge you all to support this small improvement to our zoning ordinance that will increase home ownership by allowing a housing typology that is already allowed to be built for renting to also be built for home ownership. And then I'll just also note there are some neighbors here who have taken the time to attend and show support on behalf of Yes Knoxville. You'll see them in the crowd wearing purple to show their support for this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move to the people signed up to speak in opposition to item 13Q, starting with Larry Silverstein. If you could start by stating your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Thank you. Excuse me, Larry Silverstein, 7808 Sheffield Drive, Knoxville, 37909. I am speaking as chairperson of Community Forum. We previously mailed a packet of information to you on July 19th, 2025, and an email on October 24th, 2025. We have submitted material for the record. We ask that zoning districts RN1 and RN2 be deleted from the single-family attached dwellings ordinance. Single-family attached dwellings do not fit the purpose, character, and typical design of RN1 and RN2 districts. For instance, the purpose of RN1 states, quote, intended to accommodate traditional low-density residential neighborhoods in the city of Knoxville, exhibiting a predominant development pattern of single-family homes on relatively large lots and with generous setbacks. Duplexes are allowed as a special use in RN1 and RN2 districts. But here's the thing. Single-family attached dwellings are very different from duplexes, and their impact is very different. This is the introduction of a new use. Unlike a duplex where both dwelling units are on one lot, for single-family attached dwellings, each of the two dwelling units is on a separate lot, and that changes everything. Now you have two driveways, curb cuts, where you had one driveway curb cut for the duplex. To be clear, the three peer jurisdictions the planning staff looked at, Chattanooga, Huntsville, Alabama, and Lawrence, Kansas, allow single-family attached dwellings only in zoning districts that also allow townhouses. RN1 and RN2 do not allow townhouses. Single-family attached dwellings are also very different from what was allowed as attached houses prior to recode. Attached houses required a minimum of 3 acres, allowed up to 12 attached dwellings, and were not allowed in RN1 and R1E, the zoning districts that are now RN1 and RN2. Single-family attached dwellings is a new use, different from a duplex. Lots that are 37.5 feet wide or 25 feet wide, each with a driveway, in the middle of a block face composed of single-family detached houses, is inconsistent with the design of the typical RN1 and RN2 neighborhoods. For these reasons, we ask that single-family attached dwellings be deleted from RN1 and RN2, and I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next person signed up to speak in opposition is Carleen Malone. If you could state your name and address for the record, you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Thank you. Carleen Malone, 6051 Fountain Road, 37918. First of all, we are not opposed to housing. We are not opposed to home ownership or to renters. I've been an owner, a renter, and a landlord. But please understand one thing. You don't have to have dwelling units on separate lots in order to have separate home ownership for each unit. In other words, a duplex on one lot with one driveway, 2 dwelling units, can be a condo, and each unit can have separate ownership. That's, I think, is on Island Home Avenue, something that has been recently built, and it is a duplex in an RN1 neighborhood. Please understand the difference between what is being proposed as single-family attached dwellings and what is being proposed, what is allowed as a duplex, are very different animals. Single-family attached is more similar to townhouses, and as Larry said, in the other zoning ordinances that were looked at by the staff, single-family attached dwellings are, in fact, in the zoning districts that allow townhouses, which is not RN1 and RN2. Again, we're not against housing. We're not against different types of housing. We're not against different types of ownership. We are simply asking that RN1 and RN2 not have a situation where sideline to sideline is entire houses and driveways. That is not what you have as a design in your typical single-family detached neighborhood like RN1 and RN2. We appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Third person signed up to speak in opposition to item 13Q is Chris Treadwell. Mr. Treadwell, if you could come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Thank you. Chris Treadwell, 2658 Scottish Pike. All right, splitting a duplex into 2 separate owned properties nearly doubles many of the costs. There are now 2 separate utility counts, which doubles the fees, doubles the infrastructure required for the space. Adding an additional utility infrastructure can cost nearly $8,000 and put additional strain on KUB's capacity. Also, administrative costs like surveying, recording fees, property tax can add $3,000 to the equation. Insurance costs can go up 35%, and gaps in coverage can happen from having to split these single houses into 2 separate owners, and puts them in a high-risk category. So you have to ask questions like, what happens if there's damage done to the shared wall? What if the roof needs repairs? What if one owner lapses in maintenance and does something to avoid the insurance? Knoxville code enforcement logged 41% more exterior maintenance complaints in 2-unit condos than rental duplexes in 2023 and 24. It is already hard enough to get along with your neighbors in this modern polarized society. Now imagine living next door to them, where instead of overarching rules, and management to settle disputes in apartment buildings. You have to hire a lawyer, bring disputes to court, and settle things with a lot more bureaucracy. Tennessee Condominium Act 6627-101 will probably require a formal HOA between split duplex owners, adding more complicated bureaucracy, which most people will ignore, leading to legal problems down the road, not to mention complexity to try to sell your part of the home. You need a condominium declaration, bylaws, deeds, records of HOA votes, and Knox County Register logged 27 title rejected cases involving 2-unit condos in 2024. Most importantly, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and the Federal Housing Administration will not purchase loans on condominiums smaller than 5 units. This is key. This is the same for most local banks here in Knoxville that see this as a high-risk mortgage. This means in order to purchase these high-risk properties, you have to have cash in hand. This voids the whole idea that this is affordable housing. This takes cheap rental properties with local small landlords and allows it to be bought up by major investors, like we see with BlackRock all over this country, buying up houses and inflating the housing market across this country, taking away living space for locals, and this can also be done by wealthier developers from out of state, which will probably turn into, you get a rental developer who comes in, buys it with cash in hand, and then turns it into another rental property at a higher cost. In an attempt to create more affordable housing, we are creating more expensive and lower quality of life housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, that concludes our public speakers on this item. Councilmember Ryder.
Yeah, so I just wanted to comment on where this came from and how it came before us, and a few comments about that. So this came to council earlier in 2025, and we remanded it back to Planning Commission to consider public feedback and to correct some typos. Unfortunately, council had zero discussion prior to remanding. I think we had a pretty hefty meeting that night, and I'm sorry, I wish we had had some discussion then. After going back to planning, there were some edits that were made with consideration of public input. And after discussion at the planned agenda review meeting and at planning, and with staff recommendation, this was passed unanimously by the planning commissioners. In talking to neighbors on both sides of this issue, they all have different viewpoints. And in talking to both sides, both of them can't understand why the other side has their viewpoint. One side doesn't understand why one group's opposed, and the other side doesn't understand why one group would support this. And I think both have some valid points. And what I would like to say is, if we don't pass this, or we pass in an amended version of this tonight, we won't be solving those problems, because those aren't addressed. Some of the problems that were brought up here were not addressed in this ordinance. And I think if some of the concerns that were brought up about driveway widths and all of that, those need to, we need to tell the Planning Commission that we want those addressed. For example, if we don't want something to have a double-wide 24-foot driveway with 2 garages facing the street, which is one of the concerns that were brought to me, then I have had conversation since the weekend with Ms. Brooks, and she said, well, that can be done with design standards. So a recent duplex that was built, folks don't necessarily like it, and they don't like the way it looks, and they think it stands out. We don't want something to stand out and jump out, right? And you don't have to build it that way. It's just that we haven't put that into the ordinances to give those design standards, and Ms. Brooks like, yes, we could do that. That's not in here. What is here and how this came to us is in RN3 and above, there's allowed to be townhouses. There's you can apply to build townhouses, and you can subdivide the lot to 20 feet lots. But if you're going to build 2 family attached, you can't subdivide it. So you can make 20-foot lots, but you can't make 25-foot lots for RN4 specifically. And that didn't seem to make sense to me, so I went to the staff and I was like, why can I subdivide this and make 20-foot lots, but I can't make 25-foot lots? Those are bigger lots, right? We're subdividing down to a larger amount. That doesn't make any sense. So this is the result of those conversations that started in January of last year, a lot of back and forth. And so I look forward to having conversation with everyone here. But I just want you to know that some of the concerns from some of the opposition, if this does or does not pass tonight, those concerns are not addressed. The concerns that they bring about certain types of driveways. Because if we don't pass this tonight, duplexes are allowed by special use, and you can do those, and they've been done, and they're allowed. The other thing that I will say is that, well, sorry, I'm trying to keep my thoughts on track. There's been comments about what's a townhouse and what's a single family and what's a two-family. Two-family is two. The building code is very clear about that, the International Residential Code. And there were updates in 2021 and beyond that clarified things. And a townhouse is never less than 3. So there was some conversation. I actually initially asked the planning staff and the building department when I met with them, could we just change the definition of a townhouse to allow 2 townhouses? Well, that would conflict with International Residential Code. So no, we cannot. Our code and IRC match in that respect. And then the last thing I will say is, actually I'm gonna say 2 more things super fast. Lot lines and HOAs are not related. You can have one or both, but we're not voting on that and the city doesn't govern those. And I also talked to bankers, and I believe Ms. Ball did as well. What was told to me, because I asked if loans were made differently and loan rates were different, and what I was told was that banks loan on collateral and they need a valid legal description, and that's how they loan on things. So with that, my time is up.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Council Member Roberto.
Thank you, Mayor. I had some questions for Director Brooks. These are questions I had sent you earlier, but they were months earlier when this first came up back in the summer. But looking back at what is said in the staff report, it says that the staff had learned about the city's prior zoning code, and it contained attached house as a use. So I wanted to ask you, have you gone back and looked at the 2019 zoning code to see where, not that attached house was there, but where it was allowed?
Yes, Amy Brooks, Knoxville, Knox County Planning. Yes, our staff did look back at that, that definition that showed up in the R1A, R2, and R3, and it was called attached house.
But it was not allowed in R1 or R1E, which are the precursors to RN1 and RN2 now. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So under the old code, if we review it, it wasn't allowed in RN1 or RN2. In the old code, did it have a limited to use where it was in a minimum of 3 acres?
Yes.
Okay. And it was permitted in planned residential and town center districts, which, as you know, were removed in 2020, much to my chagrin. One other question I had was, in the report, you know, staff is mentioning this, but were those specific changes or those specific things that we just went over with the 3 acres, the not incompatible, precursors in RN1 and RN2, were those in the report given to the planning commissioners? Did the planning commissioners know that there was a difference between the old code and what is being proposed here?
Yes, that was discussed, and
Okay.
it was discussed in our agenda review that we do with the planning commissioners. But again, so the information about the old code as well as the peer jurisdictions was just background research.
Okay. Well, and I'm glad you brought up the research. So it does talk about peer jurisdictions, but it doesn't identify them. We heard some speakers today identify 3 communities that were looked at. Were those the 3 that were looked at by staff?
Yeah, so it was Chattanooga, Tennessee, Huntsville, Alabama, and Lawrence, Kansas.
And so in those, is attached house allowed in what would be the equivalent of RN1 and RN2?
Yes, no, not every code is exactly alike,
Right.
but they're roughly very similar. So the Chattanooga Code prevents a single unit attached use in its RN2 zone, which also permits consideration of single-family duplex and townhouse uses. The Huntsville Code identifies or defines single-family dwelling as one detached or semi-detached dwelling unit. And this use is permitted in their Residence 1 district, which is their least intensive residential zone. And then the Lawrence Code also permits by right, not by special use, an attached dwelling use in its least intensive residential district.
So when you're looking at the comparison with these peer jurisdictions, this would or wouldn't be allowed. I know that zoning codes are different and there's slightly different terminologies, but if you were painting in broad strokes, would they allow this in RN1 and RN2?
I'm not sure that the Chattanooga Code would. It would allow it in what is similar to our RN2, but the other two would, and one would be by right and not by special use like ours is. But again, I just want to reiterate that the purpose of this research was not to apply those standards directly to Knoxville, but just to do some research on this particular use.
Well, and I would also agree with what my colleague, Councilmember Ryder, was talking about with regard to design standards. You know, we recently did an update to the design standards for duplexes. We recently, you know, had more availability for space for doing duplexes. So I think having common sense design standards like we've done previously would be a big help. I do have concerns, though, about whether or not this is appropriate in RN1 and RN2. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Berry, would you come up? I definitely appreciate the desire to add home ownership in different places, so I think I'm in all favor of that. And I don't know that tying the townhome reference in our city to another city is persuasive to me. But I do think the two driveway aspect of this is the crux of the matter. And it does, I think, create a unique design, unique in that it would be rare and uncommon in most of the RN1 and RN2 neighborhoods particularly. So my question is that, are there two curb cut driveways allowed for duplexes now?
There are not, unless it is, so if the lot width for a single family or a two family is greater than 75 feet, they can have a circular driveway. So they can have two access points, but the access points have to connect.
I think one of the speakers earlier mentioned some in West Hills that have that circular driveway. Yes. So bigger lots allow for the kind of half moon shaped circular driveway, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Now, is the double curb cut or two driveway allowed for townhomes?
I don't believe it is. I'll have to double check. I think it's just single family and two family.
Sorry for the curveball there, but, and then I have the same question related to single family homes.
So correct, it's for single family and two family dwellings only. Approved parking and driveways in the front and corner are limited to the following. And going back to, if it's a lot that's greater than 75 feet, they can have a circular driveway.
Okay, and the townhome?
It is not permitted.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I do think this will be extremely rare in our city, and I think it allow more homeownership in different neighborhoods, but I do think the design element is where the rubber meets the road that I think we need to address either now or subsequent council need to address. But that's my only question for now. Thank you, Mr. Berry.
Thank you. Councilmember Ryder.
Yeah. I have a question for Ms. Brooks, but Mr. Berry, don't go far. You should sit close just in case. Ms. Brooks, so in conversation, when we sit here and we compare RN1 and RN2, and one of the letters that we received specifically cited that attached house was allowed in RN1A, R2, and R3 under the previous code. What did R1A houses become? What's the new number for R1A? I know what my house was. I was R1A.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. It was R1A went to, I believe, RN2.
So the
I have to double check.
the R1Es and the R1s became RN1.
Roughly, yes.
Okay. So I just want to point that out to my colleagues. First off, I don't want to walk away tonight and throw the baby out with the bathwater, because to walk out of here and say, I can make 20-foot lots in a certain zone, but I can't make 25-foot lots, that doesn't make any sense. And that's where this originated. What I can say, some of y'all are going to be here after tonight more than 2 more meetings. I'm not going to get a microphone in this nature anymore in the future. I think that the reason some folks are opposed to duplexes is because we haven't applied appropriate standards in certain places in certain ways. So when you build a duplex and you put 2 garages on the front of it, it does stand out because most of the single-family houses don't do that. It's not about the width of the house. It's not even about the pavement. Because the new one that I have in mind that happens to be in West Hills, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the driveway would be the same size driveway, whether there was 1 garage door or 2. There just happens to be 2 garage doors. And that, I think, could have been done better. And I think that we can have standards moving forward to stop that. I also think that RN1 and RN2 are not the same. And when you look at the map, the folks that are opposed and want RN1 and RN2 removed live in RN1. And when you look at the maps, it's RN1. And I will remind you guys all that we are on first reading and we still have a second reading of this. But RN1 and RN2 are not the same. And duplexes and it's single-family attached, specifically single-family attached, was allowed in the predecessor to RN2. The majority of the residential neighborhoods, the majority of the land in the city in residential zones is RN1. It's over 17,000 acres. It is 59.2% of our residential zones. RN2 is 20.2%. It's a much smaller area. And the rest of the zones are for RN3, 4%, for RN4, 1.7, RN5, 4.4, RN6, 4.6, 0.1. But it's important to know that duplexes are allowed in all of those places. And what we are discussing and what we are often told is people don't want duplexes because they're going to be renter occupied. And this was a pathway to look at minimizing and making an additional pathway for them to be owner occupied. So if there's a will to remove a zone, I'm asking you to consider and think about whether RN1 and RN2 are the same animals, because I don't believe that they are. They're in different places, and the predominant areas that are in opposition to this are, and I've heard not one thing from one person in RN2 that is opposed to this. So far, I believe we have a motion and a second to pass what's proposed.
That's correct. Thank you, Councilmember Ryder. I don't see any other lights on at the moment, so all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? I think we'll have to do a roll call.
Roll call, ma'am.
Okay, we'll do a roll call.
Councilwoman Singh. Councilman Thomas. Councilman Fugit. Councilman Helsley. Councilwoman McKenzie. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Ryder.
Yes.
Councilman Roberto.
No.
Vice Mayor Smith. Mayor, the vote is 5 in favor, 3 opposed, 1 abstention.
Okay, the motion carries. Okay. Councilmember Helsley.
Thank you, yes. I had this discussion with Director Brooks earlier about if we could have like a 1-year look back on this, just like we did on Missing Middle, if it passed, which it just did. And she said they did that anyway, but I'm, I guess, formally asking you if you would get us a look back a year from now to see what that looks like.
Yes, if it passes, I will, of course.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Thank you, Council. We'll move for Councilmember Fugit.
Yeah, I just have a question, since Councilwoman Ryder brought this up. I think we all, whether it passed or not, I mean, everybody understands the design standards are a big deal. So before second reading, should we have some more discussion about that? Because I don't know how to do that. I'm just saying, part of my objection to this are the very things we were talking about. And that, yes, it's a large part of the city, but people chose to live there that way. And I know that we have to, everybody is concerned about housing and there are pros to it and cons to it. But people don't want what they consider to be a disruptive design to the look of their community. So how do we address that is my question.
Ms. Brooks, could you share with council, just in an email, the pathway they could use to move forward with changes to design guidelines, either now or by email tomorrow?
Well, yes, we can follow up with an email to everybody.
Thank you.
Councilmember Thomas.
Yeah, the design standards are concerning to me too. And the situation where you've got a shared property line, a shared wall on two lots, I don't know, it's just kind of odd. I've never seen it before. And we talked about 4 cities that had done it. I think I'd like to see where it was done more extensively and where it worked or didn't work. So that's why we have 2 readings. I'm going to take a look at this between now and then, but I will say it's concerning to me that this is just kind of an animal I haven't seen before as far as design and ownership and shared wall. So I'm reluctant to go forward with this until we get some more clarity, or maybe more, before I get more clarity. Thank you.
Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. I am not opposed to this ordinance, but some of the arguments made today were very compelling, including what our reality is here in Knoxville in the state of Tennessee when it comes to codes enforcement, and what our limitations are in terms of, having limitation on the amount of fine that can be put in place against certain violations. And so, for me, what comes to mind is the ordinance that came before us about having 2 primary purposes on one lot. And, when I drive down, Woodland Avenue, where there were these nice single-family homes that were put in, but they essentially put it in and subdivided one lot, I believe, is what they were able to do, but you can't do that anymore. That would be my preference if I were going to invest in buying a house, is to have that separate unit where I didn't have to worry about and rely on codes enforcement so much in a state that has put in its constitution a limit on how much we can fine. So this seems like maybe a compromise. I'm looking around because my time didn't start.
Yeah, well, Council, it's a little unusual that you guys started talking about an item we already voted on. So I was going to suggest that, this is why we have 2 readings, and that Ms. Brooks is going to share some information about design guideline questions that were brought up as part of this other, the item that just passed on first reading.
Okay, well, let me wrap up my thoughts for next reading. Because what I wanted to comment on is the focus on the design standards. And all I heard about tonight was a driveway. Now, when we discussed allowing duplexes across the city, I had some hesitations over the design standards. That made sense to me. I've seen some pretty egregious duplexes that have been put into our neighborhoods. And for me, the concern is not a negative impact necessarily from these designs, or I guess you could view it as a negative impact. I'm worried about the ability of these $1 million duplexes to bring up the housing cost in a working-class neighborhood. So that was my main concern with the design standards for duplexes that we've approved to go in around the city. Now that we've approved the duplexes, I'm really struggling with the complaints and the concerns raised around design standards. All I've heard tonight is about driveways. So I would love, I'm in support of this ordinance, but I'm also interested in hearing more about what the concerns are when it comes to design standards, because we already have duplexes approved. For us to allow the property to be subdivided and there to be two owners on that piece of property, I'm now trying to better understand what are the concerns about design standards at this point in the process, because the duplexes are allowed. And I would love 2 driveways at my house. Why can't we have 2 driveways? What's the issue with, okay, anyway, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 13R, please.
13R is an ordinance to amend the Knoxville City Code Appendix B zoning code, Article 4.3, Table 4-2, pertaining to building height and setbacks in the RN5 district, City of Knoxville applicant, all districts.
Motion made to approve and seconded. We have one person signed up to speak in favor of this, Drew Harper. Mr. Harper, if you could state your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes to address council.
Awesome. I am Drew Harper. I live at 1205 Kenyon Street. I'm Vice President of Yes Knoxville. As you may have heard, we advocate for increased housing options, transportation options, and public spaces. This amendment to the RN5 district is a practical step toward allowing Knoxville to grow more efficiently. As currently written, our zoning code sends a mixed message. In RN4, buildings can be 45 feet tall. RN5, that for some reason drops to 35 feet, and then it almost doubles in RN6 to 65 feet. That drop in RN5 doesn't make sense. It discourages these small apartment buildings and townhomes that fill the gap between single-family and large multifamily developments, the very missing middle that we encourage, or we say we want to encourage. By raising the RN5 height limit to 55 feet, we're making it possible to build a wider range of housing types, compact, efficient buildings that fit well in urban lots, and expand the supply of homes where people already live and work. This is how we can grow responsibly, adding houses in the places where infrastructure, jobs, and transit are already in place, rather than pushing growth outward, encouraging sprawl that damages our environment and our fiscal bottom line. This proposal also updates setbacks to ensure that taller buildings have appropriate spacing and sunlight access, while eliminating arbitrary limits that have reduced our housing supply. These are targeted technical improvements that will make our code more consistent and predictable. As Councilwoman Ryder said, land zoned RN5 is less than 5% of the city, and only about half of those parcels even meet the minimum size for multifamily development. So this is not a sweeping change. It is a modest correction that allows slightly more homes where they make the most sense. And additionally, the vote from Planning Commission was unanimous. Knoxville faces a real housing shortage, and as many tonight have already pointed out, especially a shortage of diverse housing options to match the diversity of family types and living arrangements that real people have. Allowing a little more height, a few more homes, and more flexibility in our built environment helps make the city more affordable, more vibrant, and more sustainable. So, for climate, for fiscal responsibility, and for common sense, please vote yes. Thank you.
Okay, council, that concludes people signed up to speak on this item. Councilmember Thomas?
Yes, this adjustment certainly makes some sense. I've seen a couple of instances that I can think of right offhand in my district where a applicant actually didn't need a RN6 zoning, but because of some height restrictions, and it actually made the project better under an RN5 if he could have built with a greater height, and also the footprint would have been less. So I've had instances where I've supported an RN6 even though the applicant didn't want an RN6 except for this problem with the height differentials. So it only made sense, you know, to adjust these heights to where there's a incremental height requirements in succession. So yeah, I'm for this. Like I said, I've seen a couple of rezonings which weren't really necessary except for this kind of anomaly in the height requirements. So I think this would be good to kind of solve that problem. Thanks.
Thanks. Vice Mayor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I plan to abstain on this vote. I asked my colleagues if you want to support it to do so cautiously, mostly because this makes sense for most RM4 and RM5 properties because they're kind of standing alone on the boundary of a neighborhood near a corridor. And it does make sense for almost everywhere in the city, like Mr. Harper said, except for Fort Sanders. Almost all of Fort Sanders is RN5. And so it would have drastic effects on that entire neighborhood. And so I've studied it a bit. I want to look at it some more. There's a number of developers I'd like to speak to understand the impact of that neighborhood because, like I said, almost 75% of those properties that aren't institutional are RN5. And so this makes sense on a little pocket spot, but wholesale for the entire Fort Sanders neighborhood is something I want to think about some more. So happy to abstain. I encourage you guys to support it if you want, but hold out an open mind for the next meeting until I do a bit more work.
Okay, Councilmember Ryder.
Yeah, I don't know if Mr. Berry wants to come speak to the logic behind how these changes came to us.
Sure, I can.
The setbacks as well as the height.
I can. I can also provide a little context with Fort Sanders if you'd prefer right now. So to give a little perspective on that, there's total citywide about 975 parcels that are zoned RN5. In Fort Sanders, there's 294 parcels. So about 30% of the total across the city, RN5 is in Fort Sanders. Now, of those parcels, only 84 meet the lot width in Fort Sanders of 60 feet or greater that would allow multifamily. So currently, right now, you know, that's only 28% of those properties in Fort Sanders that would allow for multifamily. And a little context to existing building heights. So we took a look at currently what's out there. When you look at the primary streets through Fort Sanders, east to west, Highland, Forest, Laurel, and Clinch, the average height is about 28 to 34 feet, with the tallest being about 56 feet. So to your question, Councilwoman Ryder, it was how did this come about? Sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, why the setback changes, I realize, so the height restriction was to get it in sync with the other zones? Because it was out of sequence, sort of?
Sure. So the idea was the RN4 district currently in the purpose statement of it, it accommodates single-family, two-family townhouses, and then what it calls low-rise multifamily dwellings. So the low-rise multifamily dwelling has a max height in RN4 of 45 feet. And then in RN5, it's 35, and then it jumps up to 65 feet in RN6. So along with additional building height that we're proposing, the reality is some additional dimensional standards need to be adjusted as well, particularly when the proposed multifamily could be adjacent to a neighboring existing single-family residence. So we're trying to provide what I think there would be some protective measures for existing homes by providing additional setbacks. So,
thank you.
Councilmember Thomas.
Yeah, the experiences that I was talking to did mainly happen on thoroughfares and bigger streets. And it was essentially to allow a developer to build actually on a smaller footprint. And he didn't really need the RN6. He could have done it on the RN5, except for this kind of being snookered in by kind of these heights, you know. But I respect Councilman Smith's concerns about Fort Sanders. And Fort Sanders actually is kind of a bit of a different neighborhood. You know, the old Victorian houses, the height traditional height standards there. That may be something we want to ponder. I'll definitely keep an open mind on that. I don't know if we can carve out an exception for that, but I think Councilman Smith's concerns are valid on that particular neighborhood, even though I haven't seen that particular problem in my district. But I appreciate Councilman Smith bringing that to our attention, and maybe we should give that some thought between now and the next council meeting.
Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries with one abstention.
S is an ordinance to change the base zoning classification of property located at 0 Keck Road from AG District to RN1 District, leaving all special purpose and overlay districts unchanged. Knoxville Real Estate Management LLC applicant, 3rd District.
Yes, council members, we have some people signed up to speak on this. First is Benjamin Mullins, speaking in favor. Mr. Mullins, oh, there you are. Please start by stating your name and address, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. Ben Mullins, 550 West Main Street. I'm here for the applicant. This one has a little bit of history. It's been through Planning Commission twice. It's been recommended for approval twice. This application is to take 1.38 acres of a 6.38 acre lot and zone a portion of it that fronts Keck Road to RN1, leaving 5 acres as an agricultural zone. My client intends to build 3 homes on the RN1 portion of the property and build his own home on the 5 acre portion, letting the homes that he will build and develop kind of help pay and fund him to be able to build the home on the 5 acres. Went through Planning Commission, recommended approval, came through here, was passed on first reading. On second reading, my client thought he had representation secured to speak on his behalf. It didn't, and there were some neighbors that appeared and had some questions. So long story short, it got sent back to Planning Commission for consideration, and now it is back here again. And this makes a lot of sense. The RN1 zone, I think there's some concerns about how much development intensity could be there. Keck is a small road. This is a very small development. We're talking about 3 additional lots here on this property. You're talking about where can you put houses that would make sense for single-family residential in this area, would make sense for 3 single-family residential homes. RN1 allows 10,000 square foot lots, which would allow more than that. However, that's only if it has sanitary sewer. This lot does not have sanitary sewer. It would be on a septic system, so it would have a 20,000 minimum square foot lot there, which is why 3 homes is all that can be built, unless he were to get easements across some of the neighbors that have been opposed to this, which is pretty unlikely that that would happen. So we're really looking at really a small impact on the neighborhood. There's industrial property across the street. The majority of this property is going to remain ag. There was some concerns, well, he could come back later and do something with that ag zone. Well, he could ask, and then he would have to come back for this body again. But right now, the plan is pretty straightforward, is a little bit of RN1 zoning on the front of the property at Keck Road, allow him to build his home on the 5 acre balance of the property. And he's talked to the neighbors, they're aware of his plans, and he'll be glad to work with them in the future. And if something changes, he'll know, but if something changes, you guys will know also. So I would really appreciate that you pass this again on first reading. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person signed up to speak against item 13S is John Hitt. John Hitt, if you could come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes to address council.
My name is John C. Hitt. I live at 6510 Keck Road. That's right down the street from the lot in question. I lived there about 35 years. My parents lived there about 30 years before that. Now, I hope I can say everything I need to say in the 3 minutes I have. I don't talk as fast as I used to. At 83, I don't do anything as fast as I used to. But I would like to agree with the staff of the Planning Commission. The staff of the Planning Commission recommended that this rezoning be denied. The staff did all the legwork You know, they investigated everything, and I think if I had a staff, I would listen to what they advised me to do. Now, a quote from the study says, "The narrow width and limited sight distance conditions on Keck Road, in addition to the potential for a large industrial development across the road, do not support more intensive residential development at this time," end quote. Now, the staff pointed out that 15 feet across the street, it's zoned 38 acres, general industrial. Also, the city engineers said that the expansion of 20 feet along this frontage would be required as a condition for residential development. And there's really no need to rezone this property. This gentleman wants to build 3 or 4 houses. He's got 6.5 acres to build on. My concern is after that 1 3/8 is put 3 houses on, he's got 5 acres left down the road. He can rezone all that and put 15 houses down there. Now, Keck Road cannot handle the traffic. Many times I've been driving on Keck Road and had to pull off to the side because of larger vehicles coming down the road. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Please vote no on this rezoning.
Thank you. The next person signed up to speak in opposition to item 13S is Kanane Allen. If you could approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Okay. My name is Kanan Allen. I live at 6714 Keck Road, which is also just down the street. So I actually live on the bigger side of the street, and I live right next to Callahan Road. So our side of the street is not so narrow. However, I walk our street multiple times a week with my daughter, and it's dangerous. I won't, dance around that. That's the main issue here, is that our road is 11 feet smaller than what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be 26 feet, and it's 15. So I do feel like we're kind of beating a dead horse here. We've been here now 3 or 4 times to speak on this. And it's not necessarily about what the developer's plans are, because plans change. So I know how finances work and how money works and just how business goes. And if something changes and we've already zoned it RN1, who's to say that it won't be developed more? And the extra 5 acres, build his house there, it's a great plan and it sounds awesome. And that's not, we don't know him. We don't know if that's actually what's gonna happen. So I think that's why us neighbors are in opposition to this, is just because we did want it sent back to planning so that we could come to a better term for this, and there just isn't. I mean, there's nothing that we can't enter into a deed together of some sort of agreement between the neighbors and the developer, because if he doesn't follow through, we can't afford to get a lawyer to sue him for not following through. So we're kind of counting on you guys to vouch for us here and help us. And no matter what you vote tonight, there is a second reading. So I know that you guys are busy and time is precious, but if you could just drive our entire street, not where I live, not at the top on Callahan, drive all the way through, and please see what we're talking about for yourselves, because I think that is the most important thing here. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, that concludes people signed up to speak on this item. Council Member Thomas and then Singh.
Yeah, this one's troublesome. I'm going to be brief because I said quite a bit when it was before here, and my council or colleagues are good listeners. To me, the issue is it's traffic safety, and I've driven that road, and it's safe if you're really, really careful, but people aren't really careful all the time. And the staff recommendation is rife with the dangerous nature, the lack of width of that road, the ditches, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just not going to put my judgment before staff recommendation on a matter of safety. This is certainly not the density issue. It's certainly not the applicant. I have no reason to think that he's not competent and means well. But when it comes down to traffic safety here, and this is pretty definitive with the staff recommendation, I'm going to be a no vote on this one.
Councilmember Singh.
Thank you. Mr. Mullins, may I ask you a few questions?
Yes.
So I understand the neighborhood's concern that more housing could be squeezed in. When we all met together, Javante, I'm sorry, I forgot your last name, was saying that that's what his plan was 4 houses. And it seemed like the neighborhood was okay with that being the absolute maximum at that time. How is it guaranteed? How do we know that that's all he's going to be able to do?
Well, that's the max he could do on the RN1. The RN1 right now would allow only 20,000 square foot lots because it doesn't have sanitary sewer. So if he wanted to put 4 lots on there, he couldn't. It would be restricted to that without getting an easement and extending that sewer to that parcel. So that couldn't happen.
So he cannot change his plans and suddenly there are 5 or 6 houses there?
Not on the RN1, no. I mean, the ag zone, is larger. You can think you can put 1 house an acre right now. You could put 6 houses on it as it stands if you want, which he could do without rezoning it. But that's not his intent. His intent was to rezone to RN1 so he could put 3 houses there and then use that to finance his house that he wants to put on the balance of 5 acres.
Okay. So if he wanted to, he could have 6 units on the 5 acre and 3 on the 1 point.
No, he couldn't. He couldn't do that because it'd be 1 house per acre on the ag zone. Is the most you could do. So right now with the 6.3 acres, you could. I don't know. You'd have to see if it would work out with the subdivision, but you could put 6 homes without rezoning it now. If he does this to the RN1, he can only put 3 homes on the part that we're rezoning, no matter what happens.
Okay. I guess the road issue is very important.
And I would appreciate, I would like to make a comment on that. I mean, what staff said is with the uncertainty of what happens with the industrial zone, they were concerned about additional residential development. But if something were to happen in that industrial zone across the street, then I'm pretty sure that intensive use would require there to be road improvements to Keck Road. There wouldn't need to be road improvements for 3 additional homes on this little part. So I think when the way I understood and I read staff's report, I mean, they were concerned with both the industrial, not knowing what could go there, and then not having additional residential development, those two things together. But we're not looking at those 2 things together. But if we were, whenever that industrial property is developed, if it's ever developed, and it's been zoned there for a while, there would have to be road improvements at that time for that development.
Okay, thank you. I am going to vote in favor of this. Mainly
There's no motion yet, just.
I'm just talking.
Okay.
Because when we met with the neighborhood, their fears that they had, I feel like we've addressed. There's not going to be more density. You have looked at the line of sight with the driveways. You're being very careful about where you're putting those. So I feel like the initial agreements made between the developer and the community, that those standards are being met right now. Thank you.
Councilmember McKenzie?
Thank you, Mayor. So we're looking at the diagram, and it looks like it just kind of comes, and Mr. Mullins, you may want to come back here. And so what would be, I really wish we kind of had a diagram that showed us, the placement of the houses. Are they going to be, what's the distance? Okay. Well, hold on for a second, because I think that Councilwoman Singh knows that answer for me.
Kind of like that. And that's going to be the 5 acres, and then that's going to be the 1.3 or 1.6.
So this is where the 2 will come out. Question answered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor Smith?
Thank you. Mr. Mullins, not so fast. I think you said if the industrial property was redeveloped, the road would have to be improved?
I think it would.
I just want to be sure I understand what you say when it would have to be improved.
Well, I think if there was any type of industrial development across the street there at Access Keck Road, which was, I think, the concern of staff, is that we don't know what that is, then, that type of traffic, I think, would trigger a traffic impact analysis, because any type of industrial development would be more intensive use.
Okay.
So and I don't know if engineering or if
You've run
planning
the
can-
numbers on this, or you?
No,
your
I'm not. I'm just
instinct is
saying my
okay.
experience, if you're doing
All right.
industrial
Okay.
development on a small road,
Okay.
they're going to require that road to be improved in order to allow that industrial
Yeah, I just
development.
wanted to make sure I understood your comment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ryder.
Yeah, Mr. Claybo, I don't know if you're going to be able to adequately answer my question on the spot about this, but if we end up going to a second reading, maybe we could get a little more clarity by next time. So when I look in KGIS, whoops, I love it. I click out and it goes all the way out. Okay. The industrial properties there that abut Keck, they seem to, and I understand, they're different parcels and everything, but they all seem to be owned by Wilbanks LLC, which Wilbanks owns these other properties. They seem to own everything that's coming off of, hang on, let me zoom in a little bit closer so I can read. Wilbanks Road, which is their own private road, and it comes off of, Wilbanks Road, which then goes up to Callahan Drive. So are they able to develop those parcels and not come off Wilbanks Road, but come off Keck, or does it just depend on what they propose, or?
I'm speculating. I would think that it would depend on what the development is.
Okay.
I could definitely get with staff and we could take a look at it and see if we could get you a more definitive answer, but that would, just initially, that's what I would think.
Okay, because there's hillside protection under a good chunk of that, but not all of that. Anyway, it's a weird hodgepodge of the way the parcels are chopped up, but it all seems to belong to one owner, and their road is named after them. Notable. All right, thank you.
No.
Sure, I think I have 3 more minutes, so.
Okay, if a council member calls on you, I suppose you have a
The
question
lady
for
in
this woman?
blue may come to the podium. The light's already on.
Ma'am,
Yes,
if you could
I'm-
just state your name and address for the record,
Betty
please.
Sherritt, 6403 Keck Road. I am right beside this proposed development. And when Wilbanks, if they can sell that, well, Wilbanks sold it to Phillips and Jordan. That property's all owned by Phillips and Jordan now. They have approval for a light, red light, green light, coming out onto Callahan Road. So they will not be coming onto Keck Road. Keck Road will not be widened for them. They have already been approved to have a red light to get on onto Callahan, so they intend to use Callahan. And this is what Teddy Phillips told me. So they do not, so our road will not get redeveloped anymore, widened.
For the parcels across the street from you.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, because they can go all the way and come out. There's a little, I don't know, a little mart, I guess, with little stores there. And they can come all the way out, and they have gotten approval for a red light. So when they get it sold, whoever wants to develop that, they will have their own red light to get on Callahan, zip to the interstate.
Okay. And Mr. Claybo, I guess we wouldn't necessarily have some record or anything about this red light because it's, it is the city? I'm super confused out here. At the intersection of I-75 and Callahan?
That is city, yeah.
The intersection there is the city, so if somebody had a red light at Wilbanks and Callahan,
right,
it would be in the
This
city.
one comes on back further towards Keck.
Mr. Claybo, do you have any information to add on that at this time?
I'm not aware of any application or any proposed signal, but I can check into it.
Okay.
And I mean,
I
a
think-
new traffic signal is something that we would know about, like if it's been approved, so,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
I'm just
Okay,
curious who's
thank
paying
you.
for it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sherritt. I see on the map where you live, and I also see that they own these other parcels that abut Callahan Drive.
Yes.
They own a lot, but it's
Yes.
still listed as Wilbank's property.
Oh, okay,
Well,
but-
this is sometimes behind.
Oh,
This is
okay.
sometimes behind.
Okay,
It's the
Phillips
best I
and-
can see from
Thank
here.
you.
All right, thank you so much.
Any further questions or discussion? There's currently not a motion on the floor. Okay, motion has been made to approve. Is there a second? Okay, motion to approve has been made and seconded. Any further questions or discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all very much.
13X is an ordinance approving the request of Benjamin C. Mullins for an amendment to the Central City Sector Plan from heavy industrial to civic and institutional for property located at 1507 9th Avenue, 6th District.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Council members, there's several people signed up to speak in favor of this. First is Ray Kilarowski. If you could start by stating your name. Sorry if I mispronounced it.
It was perfect, Mayor. Ray
Okay.
Kilarowski, 220 West Jackson Avenue. Thank you. I'm here this evening to discuss a situation you all know very well, the growth in the number of our neighbors who are experiencing a season of homelessness. I've been a volunteer at Carm Area Rescue Ministries for 8 years now. I'm currently chairman of the board, and I've been a downtown resident for 16 years. I see and appreciate the complexity of the challenges these men, and more than ever, women, are experiencing. And I know you do as well. My purpose this evening is to ask you to help Carm, help us, help our homeless neighbors, particularly women and children, by approving the zoning recommendations 13X, Y, and Z for 1507 9th Avenue, where we hope to build a campus to serve women and children. Our challenge is large and growing, and the face of it is changing. From stereotypically older men now to women, and often their children. Some perspective. 4 years ago, our point-in-time account for the city identified 800 people who were homeless. 4 years later, this very year, that number is now 2,200. Carm has 370 permanent emergency beds. 85% of the beds that exist in the city are at Carm. To house all the homeless, and not every homeless person wants a house today, we would need more than 6 Carm-size organizations. Or if we chose to do it via hotels, we need over 8 hotels the size of the Holiday Inn on World's Fair Park. Now, as I mentioned, the face of the homeless is changing in our city, with the number of women and women with their children driving that growth. Let me just give you some specifics. 4 years ago in August, we welcomed 149 men and 71 women every night at Carm. This year in August, we welcomed an average of 223 men per night, a 50% increase, but 145 women, more than double. Now you may be saying, right, why are you using August? Well, we use August for the numbers because that's the most normal month. Because as the mayor pointed out, we're already in emergency shelter time now. So the combination of those two numbers fill our 370 emergency beds, even in August. We've got no more space at Carm to love these people well. The causes of homelessness are complex, and their care requires comprehensive solutions. And we believe that can be best accomplished in loving, professional residential care. And this is what we do at our 2 Serenity houses and our new wing that we've opened for women. However, those facilities are full, and that waiting list is growing every day. So these numbers can seem daunting and for some hopeless, but we at Carm are in the business of hope because we know the author of hope. Where others see only numbers, we see the faces of daughters, sisters, mothers, and their beloved children. And I believe you do too. That's why we're here to ask you to help us bring them hope in Jesus' name.
Mr. Kilarowski, you need to conclude your remarks.
Thank you. To share just what that hope looks like, our next speaker, Andrea, will tell you about her personal journey. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Next speaker is Andrea Tate. Ms. Tate, if you could come to the podium, State your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes to address council.
Good evening. My name is Andrea Tate. I live at 606 Airway Ridge Road, Louisville, Tennessee. And saying that means more than words because not long ago I didn't have an address. I grew up in Powell, Tennessee. I graduated Powell High School, and I went to Pellissippi. I'm a divorced single parent. I have 2 daughters, Izzy, age 20, a junior at UT, Jalen, age 5, at Alcoa Elementary. In 2022, my husband abandoned our daughter and I. Jalen had an illness that prevented me from going to work and her in childcare. I had a physiological response to the fear of being homeless with a child. I lived in constant fear and anxiety. I do not recall having one good night's rest. I had no place to go, and I did not know what to do, and I felt completely hopeless. Thankfully, I had ministry connections that connected me with Carm's Serenity Ministry. In 2023, we started our journey, and we were there 23 months. When the fog began to lift, I remember thinking to myself, I get to be a mom, and all the stress and fear was lifted. I was able to read stories and laugh again. I was given the support I needed to help me navigate through Jalen's autism, process through my divorce, reestablish my finances, credit, and work on housing. My relationship with the Lord was restored, and I can be able to help serve my community. I'm now employed full-time with Carm. I was able to establish housing for my daughter and I. I am also a full-time college student at Moody Bible Institute, studying crisis and trauma care. Jalen has an active IEP and thriving in Alcoa Elementary. I have a healthier relationship with my oldest daughter, and I'm working with KLF on buying a home. My role with Carm is on the front lines every day, taking calls from women and mothers who are in crisis and homeless. I hear the distress, fear, anxiety, and tears as they navigate being homeless with children. It is truly heartbreaking. I understand because that was me. In my role now, it's really special to see how Carm meets people where they are. I'm a person of faith, but not everyone who comes through the doors share my beliefs, and that's okay. Carm doesn't withhold help or show bias. They care for anyone who walks through the doors, no matter what they believe, and that's what makes this place so unique. The hard part is we're constantly at capacity. There are so many people who need the same kind of hope and help, but we're running out of space to offer it. I long for the day where I can answer the phone and be the voice of hope on the other side, where I don't have to say, I'm sorry, we're at capacity, but I can say, I'm glad you called us because we have a place to meet your needs. I pray that you say yes to this rezoning so that I'm able to hear the relief in their voices, and I can say that we have room for them. I want to bring them hope as I was given hope. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person signed up to speak in favor of this item is Danita McCartney, the President and CEO of Carm.
Danita McCartney, 141 Hillcrest Drive, Fountain City. Good evening, council members. I'm Danita McCartney, President and CEO of Carm. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I also want to thank Ray and Andrea for sharing their hearts. Their words remind us that homelessness isn't an abstract issue. It's deeply human, it's growing, and it's personal. At Carm, we see that growth every single day. Our shelter is full every night, and our waiting list for women and children continues to grow. Behind every number is a mother, a daughter, a sister, a grandmother, and a child. Someone longing for safety, stability, and hope. Carm has 2 private rooms for single women and children. Today, the wait list for those rooms is up to 40. Every day, we're having to tell single moms living in their cars, staying on friends' couches, referred to us by CAC, or on the verge of being evicted, that we have no space. That is why we're here tonight. The Women and Children's Campus is not simply another building project. It's a community solution to a growing crisis. This campus will provide safe shelter, daily care, life skills classes, and case management. It will offer a place where women can heal from trauma, rebuild their confidence, and rediscover the amazing beauty of simply being a mom. For a mother with nowhere to go, safety is everything. For a child who has never known stability, a quiet night's sleep and a steady routine can change the course of a lifetime. That is what this project is about. Andrea's story represents so many others who are still waiting for their chance. We want to make sure no woman or child has to face the streets, wondering where they'll sleep or how they will keep going. We believe this is something we can do together. This campus will not only strengthen CARM's mission, but it will strengthen our city. It reflects Knoxville's compassion and our shared belief that every one of our neighbors has value and purpose. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're building on a proven model of success that already works. Like our 2 smaller off-site locations for women in long-term programs, as well as our pilot program for women currently that's operating on the 400 block of Broadway. You just heard one of our success stories in Andrea, but there are many others we could have invited to share here tonight. The reality is there are still many more women who have never even gotten the chance to begin that journey simply because there aren't enough beds available. So tonight, I'm asking for your partnership. Help us make this vision a reality. Together, we can create a space where restoration begins, hope takes root, and the cycle of homelessness is broken for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, the notes here just say that Benjamin Mullins is also available for questions as needed. That concludes the people who've signed up to speak. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, Councilmember Ryder, sorry. Okay, Councilmember Ryder and then Thomas.
Yeah, I just would like to say to Danita and her staff and to the speakers, thank you so much. And I appreciate the direction you guys have been taking things. I know when I met with you, one of the things that came up was, did you notice less people were outside on Broadway? And I go past there every day, pretty much taking my kids to or from school. And I was like, yeah, I had, but I thought it was because I was going at the wrong time of the day. Like, I just thought, oh, I'm not going at the time that they were out there. But I think you guys have been making some changes and I don't want to say mixing things up, but employing some different strategies to try and keep people going in a direction towards ending their homelessness. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilmember Thomas and then Mackenzie.
Yes, one thing that gives me confidence in this project is I'll share just a little bit similar to what Councilperson Ryder, my experiences. But not that long ago, I was approached and my neighborhood was approached about the need for CARM for women's services and children's services. There was a specific site on Broadway they were interested in. They would need a rezoning. It was a former church. And the way they approached us was very, very good. They answered all of our questions, told us exactly what they were going to do, and they followed through with every bit of that. And what the consequence of that, or the result of that, was the reserve. And the building's well maintained. I haven't had a single complaint from any neighbor. They've been really good neighbors. When they had the idea of about this particular project, they called us in on that and talked to us and what were our ideas, what we think the options were about alternative sites or expanded sites. They gave us a good hearing, and the result of that, I think, was them finding this location here, which I think is really good and is going to serve them very, very well. So the experience that I have with them, the fact that they were excellent neighbors in reserve in my district, I think this bodes well for the success of this project, and of course, I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that I'm really excited about this project. I think it is so well, much needed, and for it to be specifically around mothers and children. And I think that homelessness impacting anyone is a terrible event, but especially children during those formative years and the trauma that can be associated with homelessness and the experience of homelessness. And so I'm really in favor and I support this. But I'd also like to ask if I could do an alternative motion to combine X, Y, and Z.
Okay, motion to consolidate X, Y, and Z has been made and seconded. All those in favor of this motion to consolidate, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion to consolidate carries. Do you have any other comments on, okay, Vice Mayor Smith?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to applaud Mr. Kilarowski and Ms. McCartney. Thank you all. The time I met with you, we talked just about strategies to help you all, but I think the broader view of this is that there's an opportunity for dispersing these services in more places. And I think concentrated homelessness, concentrated anything is not great. And so my closing remark is really for my colleagues, something that I've talked about for a long time, particularly those that remain on council. When you see opportunities to support organizations who are willing to move services outside of the Broadway corridor, support those. You know, be brave, be supportive, because dispersing those helps the people that we're aiming to help, but it also helps reclaim some of that corridor into something more vibrant. So support more of these. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to add, it's very notable that there's no one here to speak in opposition to this. So I want to commend Carm for all the groundwork you did with neighbors nearby, neighbors in places where you already have facilities. That's very rare that when you're doing a new facility to serve unhoused people that there's not opposition. And I think that speaks to the outreach that you've done. And so thank you for that. Seeing no further questions or discussion, all those in favor of this consolidated XYZ motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
13AF is an emergency ordinance of the Council of the City of Knoxville to amend the operating and capital budgets for fiscal year 2025-2026 in order to appropriate $100,000 from the general fund's unassigned fund balance and to distribute such funds to the United Way of Greater Knoxville to address food insecurity in our city caused by the current Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits crisis.
Second. Motion made to approve and seconded. Council members, there are two people who signed up to speak to this item. First is Rob Patrick. And Mr. Patrick, if you could state your name and address for the record, you'll have up to 3 minutes to speak.
Rob Patrick, 9912 Benton Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37931. I come here tonight as Executive Director of the Knoxville Academy of Medicine Foundation. We serve as a nonprofit, which one of our programs within that nonprofit is the Kappa Kitchen Food Pantry. And so just wanted to share a little bit on behalf of United Way and why we're for this. You know, as we hear the news right now, we know that maybe the shutdown may be close to ending. But some of the points I wanted to make tonight are around the SNAP benefits. And we know that those benefits will lag. Once the shutdown ends, SNAP issuances and adjustments cannot resume immediately. Processing backlogs, staggered issuance dates, and required case recertifications will leave many households short for weeks. For families who receive benefits mid to late month, these timing gaps and administrative delays will extend empty cart weeks. What we mean by that are periods when they remain without benefits or food resources even after operations resume. I can tell you even now, at our food pantry, we have about 400 clients that are losing SNAP benefits. And so that is dramatic for us. So household budgets are stretched thin. Families are catching up on rent, utilities, and debt, which leaves less money for groceries this month. About a month ago, we had a client in our food pantry shopping and for her family, and I just happened to walk into the food pantry and she was in tears. Our family services director was in tears. And later I got to catch up with our family services director, and what had happened is this very thing. She was there to shop our food pantry, And she pulled out one little pepper out of the refrigerator, and our family services director said, "You can have more." And that's when she started crying. She said, "When I came here, I didn't have anything for my family to eat tonight." And that's just one of many stories that we're seeing, and we're seeing an increase in that over the past month. Pantry inventories are depleted. Demand increased before the shutdown as families prepared for SNAP to pause on November 1st. Over the course of the year, we've seen steady increases in the need for our pantry and clients coming to find food and resources. Just over the last month, we've seen increases of 20 to 40% week over week, leading up to that November 1st SNAP loss.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick.
Yeah, thank you.
Next person signed up to speak in favor of this item is Danielle Sims. You do not wish to speak? Or you don't have to. Okay. If you are speaking, please state your name and address for the record, please, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Yep, Danielle Sims. I am 849 West Woodchase Road. I am COO with the Knoxville Academy of Medicine Foundation. I do support this. As Rob said, we have seen an increase in the folks that are coming to our food pantry, and that are being impacted by these SNAP cuts right now. And so just really in the first week of November, we saw a 62% increase in patients that were coming into the food pantry. We're continuing to see that kind of week over week with the folks. It's increasingly harder to come about, fresh meats, proteins, things like that. We are resorting to food drives. Those bring in some things, but it's not enough for the volume of folks that we're serving. And so in favor of this, and I really appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. That concludes people who signed up to speak on this. I would just like to take a moment to thank you for adding this on emergency. I don't think in the last 6 years I've ever, very rarely, I can't recall a time where I've asked you to do that in the last, just a day before. So the reason I did so is something that you heard from the people speaking and that you've heard from your constituents. And unlike some of the issues you've discussed tonight, this isn't a complicated land use issue. There's no opposition, at least they have, we haven't heard from it. People are hungry. People aren't able to make ends meet. The SNAP suspension exacerbated already existing problems. For the first time in memory, calls to 311 and 911 about food access have exceeded calls about access to affordable housing. And again, the SNAP suspension exacerbated an already growing problem. So we cannot fix the social safety net gaps in our community. We cannot take the place of the federal government, but we can help bridge this gap for the food pantries and other food assistance organizations that are depleted, especially right now. And the old adage, we don't want people to choose between meat and heat. We are experiencing cold weather again. And so it seemed like an opportunity for us as a city to step in and do what we can. The good news is that if this is approved, this $100,000 from the city taxpayers will be matched by private donations through the United Way. Why did we choose to partner with the United Way? Well, we partner with the United Way on many things. They're a great trusted partner, and they also work with the food, in the food world on a day-to-day basis and know who's doing the work. As you know, there's some entities that have the word food pantry in them, and they do that work, but there are many other organizations that help in this food scarcity, food assistance that you might not even know it, like CAMA is just one that we heard from, Knox Pride, Wesley House, the Baptist Center at Montgomery Village. They're more than I know of, and Crystal Armstrong Brown, the president of United Way, is here, and Kimberly Pettigrew, she's the director of food systems. Just the fact that there is a position at United Way just focused on this is the reason we're partnering with United Way to get these funds out to the people and organizations who most need it. So I just want to say thank you for agreeing to add it. It wasn't a heavy lift, and I appreciate your support. Councilmember Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. I've seen Ms. Pettigrew in action. You've been working for years with in the food policy field and getting food to people that need it. So I think United Way is a good choice. My question is, in the resolution, it talks about Knox County having so many participants in the SNAP program. Do we know how many Knoxville does? And the second part of this is, how are we making sure that this is going to city residents?
Yeah.
I know that there are going to be reports done on who's getting it and things. Will we be looking at zip codes? Or
Well, they're
how
going to
will
go
we
to
determine
Oregon.
that?
I'll ask, Ms. Pettigrew or Ms. Armstrong-Brown to come up here, but as you walk up, we did ask the same question, and these will go to organizations that are located inside the city. There are organizations that, to destigmatize the people who need this, don't ask a lot of questions. And, but we do know that the data is collected on the county level because, that's how it's just, the SNAP benefits are distributed. So I don't think we have exact figures on the 35,000 where they live, if they're all in the city or just a significant portion. But I'll let the United Way experts augment that information. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. We do not have the exact number for residents within the city limits that are recipients of the SNAP benefits. Our assurance as an organization is that through the application process through which we'll be identifying and confirming the organizations that will receive the funding, we are including the restriction that those organizations will be located within the city limits. So we are extrapolating again that those organizations that are hyper-local, are community-based, will be accessed by residents that are in close proximity to the locations of those organizations.
I felt awful asking that question because we should feed anybody who needs it. But still, this is city money, so we need a lot more groups to be pitching in right now. That's why I was asking about it. How are we targeting city residents?
Yes. That language will be contained in our partnership agreements, and again, we will be able to provide reports back to you based on the use of funds and who is served by the dollars that are contributed from the city of Knoxville.
Thank you. Council Member Fugit.
Thank you. Just a quick question. Since urgency is the name of the game, how fast can these funds be deployed?
Our target is 7 to 10 days, and so that we are benefiting from being able to build on work that is existing through the Food Policy Council and an emergency group. We have a food access committee that has been meeting on a weekly basis since the shutdown was announced, coordinating those efforts already. So we know the organizations that are doing the work. We'll be inviting them into a process and anticipate closing that process and being able to distribute funds next week.
Thank you. The reason I asked that is because I wanted to hear that you already have systems in place and this will just increase the flow of money that you can put into those systems. You don't have to build something in order to do this. So thank you, because I think people need to understand this won't take months.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Roberto.
Thank you, Mayor. I support this, and I'm really glad that we're looking at this tonight. I think there's a lot of folks out there that are really hurting, and the budgets are really stretched thin. And, we need to make sure they have the availability of food is out there for folks that need it. And so I'm really glad to see that this is going on. The case was made very strongly for exactly why this needs to happen. This is, even if the shutdown ends immediately, there will be a lag in these services getting back up to speed. We've got to stabilize the system that's, been dealing with this for so long. What I wanted to ask you, though, about tonight is if you're here in the audience today or you're watching at home and you want to help, how can we best help? And I know that a lot of times when, there's a call for help, folks, might do things inadvertently that are actually not helping when we need some specific actions to help. So could you maybe take a minute and and tell folks what really needs to be done. We're obviously going to take action tonight, but we do want to call on our friends and neighbors to help as well. What can we be doing to help?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. In partnership with the City of Knoxville, in anticipation of being able to coordinate rapid response, United Way of Greater Knoxville has already developed a page that is specific to those that are seeking help and those who want to be a part of the solutions right now in our community. So if you go to the United Way of Greater Knoxville's website, it's uwgk.org, and click on Community Resources. There is a resource link that outlines all of our local food banks by location, so you can search for resources as well as distribution events across our community. And then if you continue to scroll, there's a link that connects you to our volunteer platform. So United Way is the facilitator for Volunteer East Tennessee. We partner with more than 200 organizations who are already on a regular basis updating their volunteer needs. In addition to volunteer needs, many of our food banks and our food partners have identified what resources or donations they really need in this moment and that they're prioritizing. And so there are lists available for those who want to donate, who want to organize drives. And so you can access that all through that resources page on the United Way site. For anyone who wants to give, there is also a link to donate. And those funds, again, will contribute to the community-wide campaign that supports the organizations that are doing this amazing work on the front lines of need in our communities.
Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilmember Thomas.
Yeah, after my colleagues' good comments, I simply want to say, commend the administration for putting this on emergency and getting it before us as soon as possible so we can get help to the people that need it ASAP. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, council. Okay. Moving on to public forum. We have 4 people signed up for public forum. The first is Michael Woodard. Michael Woodard. If you could start by stating your name and address, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Michael Woodard. I'm at 3005 Fountain Park Boulevard. My wife Teresa and I recently moved here after an exceedingly long Army career, and we selected Knoxville because our children are scattered throughout the Southeast. So it put us close to them. That's why we're here. Thank you very much for the chance to speak. And what issue that I have sort of pales in comparison to what we just talked to, but nevertheless, this is very important, and it's the issue of speeding on Buffett Mill Road. We live it every day. 3 things in particular I want you to know. Families crossing Buffett Mill Road on Hahn Street, perpendicular to Buffett Mill Road, have a difficult time. Young families and children in strollers, that kind of thing. Secondly, about 3/4 of a mile up the street from us, a deaf child lives there. There's a sign. And then secondly, us along with our neighbors have a very difficult time getting out of our driveways that back to Buffett Mill Road. You're probably wondering what it is that we want. We want an increased police presence for a time. I know it can't last forever. We want improved signage, crosswalks, and we think probably the best thing would be the speed bumps. So as we saw in Louisville this week, if we continually operate on the limit, there'll be tragedy. And so what I'm asking you to do is give us a bit of a buffer so there's not tragedy. If you come out there, particularly in rush hour, it's the Indianapolis 500. The speed limit is 30 miles an hour. Might not be a bad idea to lower that to 25. And if you want to give out tickets, that's your place from about 6:30 or 7:30 in the morning and 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. It's routinely 45 and 50 miles an hour. So that is almost all my time. Thank you, and it's good to be back in Tennessee, too.
Thank you. Next person is Portia Pickett.
Hello. My name is Portia Pickett, and I am the Executive Director of Wesley House Community Center. I was here to speak in favor of the allocation, but I just wanted to share that over the last 90 days, Wesley House has seen a 56% increase in families seeking emergency food assistance. In that time, we've served more than 7,100 households, representing over 40,000 individuals throughout our Emergent Needs Program, which is our food pantry. Many of those families are visiting us for the first time and struggling to bridge the gap created by the federal government shutdown and the temporary suspension of SNAP benefits. Before this shutdown, we distributed roughly 8,000 pounds of food each month, and in October alone, that number jumped to nearly 14,000 pounds, depleting our pantry shelves faster than we can restock them. We have seen senior citizens who are on fixed incomes skipping meals to stretch their resources, parents sacrificing their own dinners so that children can eat, and working families who've never imagined needing a pantry coming in. And our staff and volunteers are doing everything that we can. And so I thank you for your support. It means a lot to us. We are literally serving every day hundreds of people. And I would encourage you to stop by Wesley House on a Wednesday at 7:30 to see just the amount of people who are in line waiting to be served. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Bean Gast. If you could state your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes to address council.
Hi, my name is Bean Gast, and I live in West Knoxville. First, I would like to say Happy Veterans Day to those who served, so we can celebrate freedom that is not free, and liberty and justice for all except we pick and choose. I'm speaking tonight to demand the release of my friend Alejandro Gazar Lozano, who has lived here longer than I've been alive. I got the honor to get to know Alejandro through my poetry collective, in which he was supposed to read at the day he was kidnapped by ICE. So tonight, I'm reading a poem written by Alejandro a week after he was detained. Looking to my left, I see a sea of family chosen and not. Love, life, and laughter fill the air. My heart fills, my eyes mist. The joy, the care is almost too much to bear. As I lean down to harvest love manifested in the shape of 2 sunshine-colored eggs covered an anthill of shimmering crisp chips bathing in my own salsa delivered by royal nature. Thrump, thrump. We hit a bump and I'm awakened by familiar but loathsome pain. My wrists and ankles an inch won't gain. My heart fills, my eyes mist. Joy is gone like a wisp, like trying to hold water in cupped hands. Regret, resentment, rage, my soul binds like a child losing all emotional sobriety. I pull on my clanking restraints over and over and over again. My heart and my fingers are numb by society. A society that promised me that if I drove the right truck, wore the right boots, watched enough football, had enough Southern drawl, everything would be all right. It was easier to believe the lie. I know society's truth will make me cry, that I don't contribute, that I'm disposable, that Knoxville isn't my home. My heart is full of sadness. My eyes are misty with sorrow. I think of all the times I spent in wallow, and from my memories I borrow. Mesmerizing memories marking that life has been good. Mesmerizing memories marking that my dream is no fantasy. Mesmerizing memories marking that I can indeed see a sea of family chosen, and not strangers but friends. Laughter, life, love, and the spirit of justice and freedom fill my heart. My eyes mist once more as I use all of your collective love and energy to dispel the lie that Knoxville is not the place I love, that Knoxville is not my home. Fascism is eating us alive, and you are funding it. Free Alejandro and free them all. Thank you.
Thank you. The fourth and final person signed up to speak at public forum is Nicole Skinner. Is Nicole Skinner present? Okay. Okay. You can state your name and address, and you'll have up to 3 minutes to address council.
Hello, my name is Nicole Skinner. I live in Inskip. I want to start by giving a brief recap of what is happening to our dear friend and dedicated Knoxville community member, Alejandro Guizar Lozano. On October 15, Alejandro was called into Smith County for a routine appointment where he was detained by ICE. We discovered he was missing because his phone location started showing at an ICE office. His loved ones desperately scrambled to find him and ensure he had access to his medication and lawyer. We eventually pieced together that he was moved to the Nashville ICE office, the Putnam County Jail, moved out of the Putnam County Jail at 3 in the morning, skipped the Knox County Jail, although the Knox County Jail lied to us and said he was being held there, while they flew him to Louisiana, a processing facility in Alexandria, and then ultimately bused him to Gina, Louisiana, where he is now being held in a detention facility. Almost a month later, ICE still has not produced a reason for why he has been abducted, leaving his loved ones to stress constantly. His legal team recently filed a habeas corpus, so we hope to have an update soon. Alejandro's story is devastatingly common, even in our own city. He is one of many of our community members who ICE and local law enforcement are attempting to disappear, and we refuse to let that happen. The Knoxville city government and KPD have repeatedly tried to distance themselves from the terror that is being inflicted on our immigrant neighbors. However, a Knox News article came out yesterday, which everyone should read. It shares what many of us already knew, that KPD is not only complying with state and federal laws, they are going out of their way to collaborate with ICE, and are even holding people for approximately 20 minutes, whatever that means, for ICE to come pick them up. They're holding people longer than Chattanooga and Nashville police do. And they even had the audacity in that article to imply that we should be grateful we aren't experiencing longer holds or bigger raids like there are in other cities. How dare you? For whatever it's worth, Alejandro called me today and I asked if he has anything to say to you all. His message to you is to stop collaborating with ICE. Big surprise. We come to you because we know that a better world is possible, a world where resources are used to meet our community members' needs and not to lock them in cages and separate them from their families. We know that each of you could be a part of building that world with us if you choose to. We need your help to hold these institutions accountable for the abduction of Alejandro and the violations of his due process rights, and to put an end to the terror that our immigrant neighbors continue to face daily, thanks to you. Hard times require us to ask ourselves hard questions. I know I've been doing even more of that lately. Like, can I live with myself if I don't do everything in my power to stop an ethnic cleansing happening in my own community? My answer to that is a strong hell no, and I hope yours will be too. If you do choose to duck your head and stay silent, we will take that as an answer, and we won't let anyone forget it. I hope you'll join us in this fight against fascism while there's still time for you to do so.
Thank you. Council members, that concludes public forum. Without objection, this meeting is adjourned.